Hey, turning to politics now. Earlier this hour, Speaker Ryan saying this about advancing the Trump agenda despite the controversies. Roll tape.
You've heard me say this before. We're going to walk and chew gum at the same time. We're going to keep doing our jobs. We're going to keep passing our bills. We're going to keep advancing our reforms that we were elected to advance while we do all these other things that are within our responsibility.
Joining us now, Congressman Jim Jordan. Congressman, we keep hearing Paul Ryan and other leaders of the Republican Party tell us the same thing over and over again. And just judging from the market's reaction during that press conference, people aren't convinced anymore. What do you say to that?
Well, I say we got to get back to work. Look, let's get the tax reform done. That's what the American people elected us to do. Let's actually get Obamacare changed, repealed, and replaced. Let's actually build the wall. Let's do the things they sent us here to do. I say all the time, we make this job too complicated. Our job is pretty basic. Do what the people elected us to do. So let's get focused on that. And there's a hearing coming in Ways and Means about the tax reform. So let's move on all that as we get the facts and information about the whole Comey firing and Comey affair.
But here's the thing, the checklist, we know the checklist. I think a lot of people can say it by heart, but Chairman Brady gave it to us again, the loopholes, the fairness, helping businesses, the death tax, manufacturing, the level playing field, reform, all of these things we've heard. In fact, this is why your party was propelled into leadership. But yesterday, Mitch McConnell said something that was really unnerving, and I think it got lost in a lot of the news since then, that, for instance, tax revenue neutrality is something that must happen. Within your own party, there's a lot of conflict, and how is that going to be resolved?
No, I actually, frankly, disagree. I think revenue neutral is a fancy way of saying the tax burden stays the same. We just kind of shift around who pays what. And normally under that construct, the connected class here in Washington does pretty well, but the middle class gets the short end of the stick. So I'm not locked into this revenue neutral in a tax environment. What I think we should do is cut taxes so families get to keep more of their money, create a tax code that's conducive to economic growth, and then cut spending. That's what I thought the Republican Party was about. Not saying we're going to lower some taxes and add a whole new tax. Right now, what's being talked about is the border adjustment tax. I don't think that's what Republicans are about. So let's design a tax code that's conducive to growth, and let's cut spending.
Right.
And let's also look at welfare reform as part of this whole tax proposal. That's something that the American people want to see happen as well.
To your point, Mitch McConnell also saying the border adjustment tax probably won't happen because you've got two senators from a state where Walmart has a lot of influence. Yeah. I kind of like that because I think it's a tax on the middle class. But to your point also, President Trump doesn't want to touch the larger items on the with respect to the budget. So can you find things that aren't necessarily, the discretionary spending, enough savings there as we increase the military budget, as we do things like the government now getting involved in child care, as we help inner cities, we're bringing on a lot more spending. How do we find the alternative cuts?
Well, I think you start with welfare reform. One of the things I hear from employers all across our district is it'll be a conversation something like this, Charles. They say, you know, in spite of all the crazy things that happened over the last 8 years with regulation and tax policy and Obamacare, we're still creating jobs. We can't find enough people to work. So let's put a work requirement on welfare recipients, on TANF recipients, on SNAP recipients. If you're going to get food stamps, there's got to be a work requirement, and what happens is those people will typically go get a job. Imagine that. So let's do that kind of reform, which will save money, which will help treat taxpayers with the respect they deserve, and also help those families who've been stuck in our welfare and social welfare programs. So that's something I think should be in part of this tax reform as we move forward, too. It can save us some money. There's
no doubt when Newt Gingrich and Bill Clinton got on the same page with respect to that, we saw instant success and a pretty good run for our economy. Before I let you go, sir, the swamp. I mean, politicians, I assume most go there with the right intentions, but it seems D.C. must be so powerful because their own personal interests, their own personal wanting to get back in the office and to stay there. Is that really, truly the biggest obstacle you face right now?
I don't know. I think it's just sort of the way this town kind of has tended to operate. Again, I always come back to what did the American people elect us to do? Let's just do that. Let's focus. What did they send us here to accomplish? Let's focus on. They sent us here to accomplish certain specific things that we campaigned on. Let's just focus on getting that done. The investigations, all that will take care of themselves. We'll get the facts and we can make decisions based on those facts. But Donald Trump was elected, particularly in the upper Midwest, to do, I think, welfare reform, to do tax reform, to stop Obamacare, to build the wall. Let's focus on those things.